welcome to another episode of the Granite List Live, where we discuss all things related to human capital and employee benefits. I'm Lee Dill.
And I'm Sally Pace, and we are joined today by Sal Brogna with the newly formed Informed, and I cannot wait for you to share this story. But before we start talking about your current endeavors, Sal, do you mind giving our audience a little bit of your personal history? Tell us where you came from.
Sure. I don't like talking about myself generally, but my background and the reason why I'm engaged with Sally and Lee today is I worked in the healthcare profession for the last 20 plus years as one of the technical developers. I was the COO at Intuitive Surgical, and Intuitive developed the Da Vinci surgical robotic system. It's been this really transformative technology that's been able to deliver great therapeutic value to their patients and disrupt their lives in the least way. I was an engineer by background and led the product development for a number of years while I was there at the beginning, and ultimately moved into more management positions as the business grew. When I left, we were a few $1 billion a year business and one of the most successful medical device companies of all time, in the US especially. As I went through that journey, I learned to engage with surgeons in a really complete way. We had to develop products for them, so we had to understand what was valuable to them. And in turn, they showed us what's invaluable or valuable to patients and how they can help them in the best way. And so in 2020, I decided to sort of semi-retire from Intuitive, but I got bugged to start this new business. And it was kind of the same premise we had at Intuitive, which was if somebody called us, if a friend or family called us and said, who's the right surgeon to go see, because we knew a lot of the surgeons, we'd make a recommendation, and things really always happened great for those people. They always had great stories to tell about how it impacted their lives in a positive way. And that's where the genesis of the idea came for Informed Surgical was, could we bring that same general knowledge of medical profession to a broader group of people in the country? And that's what we're trying to do today.
So I know it's Informed is intentionally named because you were able to take data that is collected somewhere and do something with it. Can you talk a little bit about what data you're looking at and why it matters and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, is sort of a unintended consequence of building a surgical robot. We also had the need to collect data. In the beginning, we would collect data off of our robotic systems to make sure we were monitoring reliability and product defects so that we can continually improve the product. But what was amazing was the wealth of information that came off the machine and how it started to tell us a little bit more about A, it did tell us about how we could develop better products, but B, gave us a way to really assess surgeon skill levels in ways that heretofore have never been able to be done. So we get precise study of their hand motions, the types of instruments they use in a procedure, how much they vary within the same procedure, how much do they vary their instrument sets, what their duration is for doing different tasks in surgery. And you can start building a nationwide profile of what the best surgeons do and then sort of tell surgeons where they rank within the performance limits of surgery. What's also interesting about that is, in addition to kind of giving surgeons this feedback, Intuitive also had developed simulation tools, sort of video game kind of playing tools, that surgeons could go practice and improve their skill sets. So as we gathered data, it informed us at Intuitive about how we could build better training tools for them. But altogether, it painted a clear picture of which surgeons were performing at a very high level and which ones had more work to do to build their skill set.
So I love that you're not only informing the doctors to make them be better surgeons, but you're also informing the employees in order to get best in class care and have a surgery that has fewer complications. Can you give us a little bit of a background of how you're going after the employer space and bringing your concept to market?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. I think it starts with a simple idea. And we looked at who were going to be the people most impacted by great surgeons and reduced complications. I mean, all patients could benefit from that. In the commercial market, the employers who have been bearing the brunt of a lot of the healthcare costs were the ones that had the most leverage to help change the market. And as we started to look at who would be most interested in understanding how to get their employees to better doctors and faster recoveries, the commercial employers were our early target.
I want to take one component of what Informed is doing. I want to really dig into this concept of data. Can you share a little bit more about what your data actually is and what you're measuring or benchmarking against?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sally. I think that most people don't understand is today the rating systems that exist in the marketplace are not very specific about a certain surgeon's skill set or maybe the specific procedures they do or the types of patients they serve. With the advent of robots in the operating room, the amount of data that's collected can really shed tremendous insights onto surgeon performance, surgical team performance, and ultimately connect that to patient outcomes. At Intuitive, we're gathering thousands of bits of data per second during surgery. It all can be recorded both digitally with sort of the fancy words are the kinematics of motion of the machine, but also video recordings. And you can go back and look and compare certain performance attributes of a surgeon. And so we start moving from understanding a surgeon's knowledge, which is maybe book smart and can pass a written test, to really getting into understanding their skill level and how precise they move, how long they take for each procedure, and the variability that they show each time. Sometimes it's good to have variability and sometimes it's bad. If one patient is substantially different than another patient, maybe there's a need for variability. But in most cases, there's a mean where the data falls, and consistency would really drive quality. And that was something that we were sort of obsessed about at Intuitive was how do we just make sure the system is working at this high performance level every time so the surgeons can depend on it. And we work for decades working to improve reliability. And with the data we got from the system, we're able to do that. We shift gears and we say, well, now that I have all this data, can I help patients? And the answer is yes. Once you understand skills, you can start factoring that in. There's a host of other great data out there. You can go get some of the CMS data sets. You can get some of the other Optum data sets. You can start looking at, not only do you get to look at surgical performance, but you start looking across the price transparency spectrum. And when you start making comparisons of great surgeons at cost effective institutions taking the right surgical approach to a procedure, you finally, for the first time maybe in the history of healthcare, you finally start defining a value proposition that's honest and accurate at a very detailed level, at a very personal level for the patients.
So, talking about that accuracy, can you give an example of what the employer would think about a patient going to a robotic surgeon versus an open surgery or laparoscopic surgery, and why the outcomes are better using a robot?
Yeah, I start getting passionate about it. But on something of more routine surgery like hernia repair, inguinal hernia is the hernia that most associated with lifting and tearing muscles in lower groin. With Da Vinci, it opens up a whole new approach to that procedure. And it enables the surgeon to do things in such a precise way, but absolutely in a way that is unachievable through open technique or through laparoscopic technique. And they can now do surgical repair and put the mesh in place with minimal incisions into the patient's body. And it allows the patient now to recover and be able to start lifting in less than a week. 6 days is quite often the number that the surgeons will allow, versus 6 weeks for what it would be for an open approach. And 50% of inguinal hernias are open today. And so we start bringing that tremendous value proposition to patients. And not only does it give them faster recovery, more capability, and less complications, because wounds can get infected and all that, it generally ends up saving people money, and especially the out of pocket expenses for employees. And the other kind of magical part of Da Vinci when it enters into these procedures is something simple like, hey, if you have a hernia on your left side, is there a possibility you might have one starting on your right side as well? And what the statistics show is that 29% of the people that go in for hernia repair actually require a bilateral hernia. And because of the way they enter the body and see the anatomy more clearly with Da Vinci and the 3D vision technology that Intuitive has developed, they can, in those 29% of the times, take care of both sides of the hernia repair. That reduces the second operation, so you're saving now thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in secondary operations and lost work again a year or two down the road where you could have taken care of it all in one shot. So it's kind of this new approach that is transformative. And most people would have said, well, you don't need Da Vinci surgery for something as straightforward as hernia repair, but in fact, it's transformed the recovery time, in addition to reducing the need for pain meds and the risk the drugs are associated with those pain meds. Really, it has a broad reaching capability that wasn't first understood when the general surgeons started to introduce it into that marketplace.
We've had a number of conversations outside of today's podcast about kind of the go to market approach and where you envision taking informed and how robotic devices assisting in surgeries can really transform both the spend on the work comp side and the medical plan, as you just described with the hernia example. We have the pleasure and privilege of a lot of benefits leaders listening. So I want to invite you to talk about, invite them to consider some of the early stage pilots that are taking off. And if we've got a lot of innovative leaders in our Rolodex, so if they were interested, how could they take advantage of it?
We're, as you said, in the early stages, and we're eager to bring the benefits to all these companies that are under the stress of rising healthcare costs. Reach out to your local brokers. They can contact us. If you can't get any connection through your broker, we're available at inform.me and get you your emails, and we'll connect with you and show you the benefits we can bring to you and your clients or your employees. Now, on average, we're going to start by introducing our services in general surgery and GYN. We will expand into bariatrics, colorectal, thoracic, and even there's some great surgeons that are using Da Vinci for some cardiac procedures, mostly mitral valve repair. As we fulfill that requirement, we will ultimately start working with the medical device companies that have robotics in orthopedics and hips and knees, and those that have work in spine. So we'll expand it over time. But in the short term, we're focusing on the highest volume incidences that your employees might have, which is the light general surgery procedures like gallbladder replacement, hernia, both inguinal, ventral hernia repair. The robotic surgeons are doing spectacular work in colorectal procedures and also tremendous benefits in bariatric surgery. Some of our surgeons that are working in the thoracic space are doing major lung resections, whether it's a lobectomy or a wedge resection, and discharging the patients the same day. So tremendous opportunities for your employees. And with that comes the reduced complications and the reduced costs. So today we have a few pilots underway, and we're hoping to expand. We want to broaden our install base in 24 and then rapidly increase in 2025. So happy to talk to anyone that is interested, and we can explain to you the benefits of the program and how we can both impact the recovery time for your employees. And then in conjunction with all this great skill assessment, we've also done a deep dive on understanding the price transparencies and the pricing issues. And so we have healthcare economics specialists that know on a procedure level, whether it's inpatient or outpatient procedures, what the typical pricing would be and how it varies from hospitals within a local market. And quite often, the great service that we bring is not only finding the great surgeons, but finding the great surgeons at the most cost effective hospitals in your local market. Obviously that has to be matched to your in-network providers, and but we can do all that work, and we can also show what typical out-of-pocket expenses might be for the employee. So we're taking a comprehensive view of this value proposition that starts with understanding surgeon skills with absolute clarity, and secondly, understanding pricing structures with absolute clarity. And we're merging that together to an exciting new story for our employers. On average, what we've been finding is for the savings we produce are on general 3 times what the cost is for the program. So when we start with general surgery and GYN procedures, we can save on average over $100 per employee per year, and with the fees that are much lower than that. And so we really think we've got a great value proposition. And that doesn't account for the time off from work. That is raw savings in billed charges from your care providers. So it's an exciting story, and I'm eager to take it nationwide. And maybe last point on that, the wonderful thing that we're doing is we're taking a nationwide look at this service. We are not just taking it from one hospital and sort of specializing there. And so the beautiful part about what we're doing is we're bringing surgeons from around the country together to establish that both are doing great things today and to help us advance the state of the art going forward. And they're learning from each other, and bringing them together in this new way is really exciting. It knocks down all the barriers. It's not about centers of excellence anymore. It's about surgeons of excellence and how we deliver, A, the best surgeons in your local markets, but more importantly, how do we take all these great surgeons and have them teach each other how to get even better? And it's hopefully the new way that healthcare is going to work going forward, and absolutely get a handle on healthcare costs for this country.
We are so excited to be alongside you in this journey. I know you guys are really at the anti cutting edge of what is to come in the surgical space. And I love how you phrased surgeons of excellence, not centers of excellence. So thank you for the work that you and the team are doing and shining light on an alternative way of caring for people, getting them back to work, back to their quality of life faster, better. And we can't wait to see who comes alongside you on this journey. I just want to reiterate, we love that you're doing an all call for the pilot phase. And I'll reiterate that you can learn more at informed.me. And we are very proud to feature and partner Informed on the Granite List. So with that, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Granite List Live.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Granite List Live. Access our entire library by visiting your favorite podcast venue or subscribe on our site, thegranitelist.live.